Chapter 79. Asking Permission. Chapter 1. How the Salam began. Narrated Abu Hurairah. The Prophet said, Allah created Adam in his picture, 60 cubits, about 30 meters in height. When he created him, he said to him, Go and greet that group of angels sitting there, and listen what they will say in reply to you, for that will be your greeting and the greeting of your offspring. Adam went and said, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. They replied, Assalamu alaika wa rahmatullah, peace and Allah's mercy be on you. So they increased wa rahmatullah. The Prophet added, So whoever will enter paradise will be of the shape and picture of Adam. Since then, the creation of Adam's offspring, yet stature of human beings is being diminished continuously to the present time. Chapter 2. Enter not the house other than your own. Narrated Abdullah bin Abbas. Al-Fadl bin Abbas rode behind the Prophet as his companion rider on the back portion of his she-camel on the day of Nahr, slaughtering of sacrifice 10th Dhul Hijjah. And Al-Fadl was a handsome man. The Prophet stopped to give the people verdicts. In the meantime, a beautiful woman from the tribe of Qatam came, asking the verdict of Allah's Messenger. Al-Fadl started looking at her as her beauty attracted him. The Prophet looked behind while Al-Fadl was looking at her. So the Prophet held out his hand backwards and caught the chin of Al-Fadl and turned his face to the owner's sides in order that he should not gaze at her. She said, O Allah's Messenger, the obligation of performing Hajj enjoined by Allah on his worshippers has become due compulsory on my father, who is an old man and who cannot sit firmly on the riding animal. Will it be sufficient that I perform Hajj on his behalf? He said, Yes. Narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. The Prophet said, Beware, avoid sitting on the roads. They, the people, said, O Allah's Apostle, we can't help sitting on the roads, as these are our places. Here we have talks. The Prophet said, If you refuse but to sit, then pay the road its right. They said, What is the right of the road? O Allah's Apostle, he said, lowering your gaze, refraining from harming others, returning greeting, and enjoining what is good, and forbidding what is evil. Chapter 3. As-Salam is one of the names of Allah, Azza wa Jal. Narrated Abdullah. When we prayed with the Prophet, we used to say, As-Salam be on Allah from his worshippers. As-Salam be on Gabriel. As-Salam be on Michael. As-Salam be on so and so. When the Prophet finished his prayer, he faced us and said, Allah himself is As-Salam, peace. So when one sits in the prayer, one should say, At-Tahiyatu li ilahi was-salawatu wat-tayyibatu As-salamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatul ilahi wa barakatuhu As-salamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi as-salihin. For if he says so, then it will be for all the pious slave of Allah in the heavens and the earth. Then he should say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu, and then he can choose whatever speech, invocation he wishes. See Hadith number 797, volume 1. Chapter 4. The small number should greet the large number. Narrated Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, the young should greet the old, the passerby should greet the sitting one, and a small group of persons should greet the large group of persons. Chapter 5. The riding person should greet the walking person. Narrated Abu Huraira. Allah's Messenger said, the riding one should greet the walking one, and the walking one should greet the sitting one, and the small number of persons should greet the large number of persons. Chapter 6. The walking person should greet the sitting one. Narrated Abu Huraira. Allah's Messenger said, the riding person should greet the walking one, and the walking one should greet the sitting one, and the small number of persons should greet the large number of persons. Chapter 7. The younger person should greet the older one. Narrated Abu Huraira. Allah's Messenger said, the younger person should greet the older one, and the walking person should greet the sitting one, and the small number of persons should greet the large number of persons. Chapter 8. To propagate As-Salam. Narrated Al-Bara bin Asib. Allah's Messenger ordered us to do 7 things: to visit the sick, to follow the funeral processions, to say Tashmit to a sneezer, to help the weak, to help the oppressed ones, to propagate As-Salam greeting, and to help others to fulfill their oaths, if it is not sinful. He forbade us to drink from silver utensils, to wear gold rings, to ride on silken saddles, to wear silk clothes, tibaj, thick silk cloth, kasi, and istabrak, 2 kinds of silk. See Hadith number 539, volume 7. Chapter 9. To greet everybody. Narrated Abdullah bin Amr. A man asked the Prophet, what Islamic traits are the best? The Prophet said, feed the people, and greet those whom you know and those whom you do not know. Narrated Abu Ayyub. The Prophet said, it is not lawful for a Muslim to desert, not to speak to his brother Muslim for more than 3 days while meeting. One turns his face to one side, and the other turns his face to the other side. Lo, the better of the two is the one who starts greeting the other. Chapter 10. The Divine Verse of Al-Hijab. Narrated Anas bin Malik, that he was a boy of 10 at the time when the Prophet emigrated to Medina. He added, I served Allah's Apostle for 10 years, the last part of his lifetime, and I know more than the people about the occasion whereupon the order of Al-Hijab was revealed to the Prophet. Ubay bin Ka'b used to ask me about it. It was revealed for the first time during the marriage of Allah's Messenger with Zainab bint Jahsh. In the morning, the Prophet was a bridegroom of her, and he invited the people, who took their meals and went away, but a group of them remained with Allah's Messenger, and they prolonged their stay. Allah's Messenger got up and went out, and I too went out along with him, till he came to the lintel of Aisha's dwelling place. Allah's messenger thought that those people had left by then. So he returned, and I too returned with him till he entered upon Zainab, and found that they were still sitting there, and had not yet gone. The Prophet went out again, and so did I with him till he reached the lintel of Aisha's dwelling place. And then he thought that those people must have left by then. So he returned, and so did I with him, and found those people had gone. At that time the divine verse of Al-Hijab was revealed, and the Prophet set a screen between me and him, his family. Narrated Anas. When the Prophet married Zainab, the people came and were offered a meal, and then they sat down after finishing their meals and started chatting. The Prophet showed as if he wanted to get up, but they did not get up. When he noticed that, he got up, and some of the people also got up and went away, while some others kept on sitting. When the Prophet returned to enter, he found the people still sitting, but then they got up and left. So I told the Prophet of their departure, and he came and went in. I intended to go in, but the Prophet put a screen between me and him. For Allah revealed, O you who believe, enter not the Prophet's houses. 33:53. Narrated Aisha. The wife of the Prophet, Umar bin al-Khattab, used to say to Allah's messenger, let your wives be veiled. But he did not do so. The wives of the Prophet used to go out to answer the call of nature at night, only at Al-Manasi. Once Sauda, the daughter of Sama, went out, and she was a tall woman. Umar bin al-Khattab saw her while he was in a gathering, and said, I have recognized you, O Sauda. He, Umar, said so as he was anxious for some divine orders regarding the wailing of women. So Allah revealed the verse of wailing, Al-Hijab, a complete body cover excluding the eyes. See Hadith number 148, volume 1. Chapter 11. Asking permission because of looking. Narrated Sa'd bin Sa'd. A man peeped through a round hole into the dwelling place of the Prophet, while the Prophet had a mid-ray, an iron comb, with which he was scratching his head. The Prophet said, had known you were looking through the hole, I would have pierced your eye with it. He had a comb. Verily, the order of taking permission to enter has been enjoined because of that sight, that one should not look unlawfully at the state of others. See Hadith number 807, volume 7. Narrated Anas bin Malik. A man peeped into a room of the Prophet. The Prophet stood up holding an arrowhead. It is as if I am just looking at him, trying to stab the man. Chapter 12. The adultery of the body parts. Narrated Ibn Abbas. I have not seen a thing resembling Laman, a minor sins, than what Abu Huraira narrated from the Prophet, who said, Allah has written for Adam's son his share of adultery, which he commits inevitably. The adultery of the eyes is the sight to gaze at a forbidden thing. The adultery of the tongue is the talk, and the inner self wishes and desires, and the private parts testify all this or deny it. Chapter 13. To greet and ask permission thrice. Narrated Anas. Whenever Allah's messenger greeted somebody, he used to greet him 3 times, and if he spoke a sentence, he used to repeat it thrice. Narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. While I was present in one of the gatherings of the Ansar, Abu Musa came as if he was scared and said, I asked permission to enter upon Umar 3 times, but I was not given the permission, so I returned. When Umar came to know about it, he said to Abu Musa, Why did you not enter? Abu Musa replied, I asked permission 3 times, and I was not given it, so I returned, for Allah's messenger said, If any one of you asks the permission to enter thrice, and the permission is not given, then he should return. Umar said, By Allah, we will ask Abu Musa to bring witnesses for it. Abu Musa went to a gathering of the Ansar and said, Did any one of you hear this from the Prophet? Ubay bin Ka'b said, By Allah, none will go with you but the youngest of the people as a witness. Abu Sa'id was the youngest of them. So I went with Abu Musa and informed Umar that the Prophet had said so. See Hadith number 277, volume 3. Chapter 14. If a man is invited, should he ask permission to enter? Narrated Abu Hurairah. I entered the house along with Allah's messenger. There he found milk in a basin. He said, O Abu Hir, go and call the people of Sufaf to me. I went to them and invited them. They came and asked permission to enter, and when it was given, they entered. See Hadith number 459 for details. Chapter 15. To greet the boys. Narrated Anas bin Malik, that he passed by a group of boys and greeted them and said, The Prophet used to do so. Chapter 16. Greeting of men to women and women to men. Narrated Abu Hasim. Saul said, We used to feel happy on Fridays. I asked Saul why. He said, There was an old woman of our acquaintance who used to send somebody to Budas. Ibn Maslama said, Buda was a garden of date palms at Medina. She used to pull out the silk, a kind of vegetable, from its roots and put it in a cooking pot, adding some powdered barley over it and cook it. After finishing the Jumu'ah prayer, Friday prayer, we used to pass by her and greet her, whereupon she will present us with that meal. So we used to feel happy. Because of that, we used to have neither a midday nap nor meals except after the Friday prayer. See Hadith number 60, volume 2. Narrated Aisha. Allah's messenger said, O Aisha, this is Gabriel sending his greetings to you. I said, Peace, and Allah's mercy be on him. Gabriel, you see what we do not see. She was addressing Allah's apostle. Chapter 17. Asking, Who is that? Narrated Jabir. I came to the Prophet in order to consult him regarding my father's death. When I knocked on the door, he asked, Who is that? I replied, I, he said. I. He repeated it as if he disliked it. Chapter 18. To reply a greeting saying, Alaikas Salam. Narrated Abu Hurairah. A man entered the mosque while Allah's messenger was sitting in one side of the mosque. The man prayed, came and greeted the Prophet. Allah's messenger said to him, Wa alaikas salam, returned his greeting. Go back and pray as you have not prayed properly. The man returned, repeated his prayer, came back and greeted the Prophet. The Prophet said, Wa alayka salam, returned his greeting. Go back and pray again, as you have not prayed properly. The man said at the second or third time, O Allah's Messenger, kindly teach me how to pray. The Prophet said, when you stand for prayer, perform ablution properly, and then face the Qibla, and say, Takbir, Allahu Akbar, and then recite what you know from the Quran, and then bow with calmness till you feel at ease, then rise from bowing, till you stand straight, and then prostrate calmly, and remain in prostration till you feel at ease, and then raise your head, and sit with calmness till you feel at ease, and then prostrate with calmness, and remain in prostration till you feel at ease, and then raise your head, and sit with calmness till you feel at ease in the sitting position, and do likewise in whole of your prayer. And Abu Usama added, till you stand straight. See Hadith number 759, volume 1. Narrated Abu Huraira. The Prophet said in the above narration, number 268, and then raise your head till you feel at ease while sitting. Chapter 19. If one says, so and so sends salam to you. Narrated Aisha, that the Prophet said to her, Gabriel sends salam, greetings to you. She replied, Wa alayhi salam, wa rahmatullah, peace and Allah's mercy be on him. Chapter 20. Greeting a mix-up gathering. Narrated Urwa bin As-Zubair. Usama bin Zayd said, the Prophet rode over a donkey with a saddle, underneath which there was a thick soft fadakiya velvet sheet. Usama bin Zayd was his Usama bin Zayd was his companion rider, and he was going to pay a visit to Sa'd bin Ubadah, who was sick, at the dwelling place of Bani al-Harith bin al-Khazraj. And this incident happened before the Battle of Badr. The Prophet passed by a gathering in which there were Muslims and pagan idolaters and Jews, and among them there was Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul, and there was Abdullah bin Rawaha too. When a cloud of dust raised by the animal covered that gathering, Abdullah bin Ubay covered his nose with his rida sheet and said to the Prophet, don't cover us with dust. The Prophet greeted them and then stopped, dismounted and invited them to Allah, yet to embrace Islam, and also recited to them the Holy Quran. Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul said, O man, there is nothing better than what you say. If what you say is the truth, so do not trouble us in our gatherings. Go back to your mount or horse or house, and if any one of us comes to you, tell your tales to him. On that Abdullah bin Rawaha said, O Allah's Messenger, come to us and bring it what you want to say in our gatherings, for we love that. So the Muslims, the pagans and the Jews started quarreling till they were about to fight and clash with one another. The Prophet kept on quieting them till they all became quiet. He then rode his animal and proceeded till he entered upon Sa'd bin Ubadah. He said, O Sa'd, didn't you hear what Abu Habab said? He meant Abdullah bin Ubay. He said so and so. Sa'd bin Ubadah said, O Allah's Messenger, I excuse and forgive him, for by Allah, Allah has given you what He has given you. The people of this town decided to crown him as their chief and make him their king. But when Allah prevented that with the truth which He had given you, it choked him, and that was what made him behave in the way you saw him behaving. So the Prophet excused him. Chapter 21. He who does not greet a person who has committed a sin. Narrated Abdullah bin Ka'b. I heard Ka'b bin Malik narrating, when he did not join the battle of Tabuk, Allah's messenger forbade all the Muslims to speak to us. I would come to Allah's messenger and greet him, and I would wonder whether the Prophet did move his lips to return to my greeting or not, till 50 nights passed away. The Prophet then announced to the people Allah's forgiveness for us, acceptance of our repentance, at the time when he had offered the Fajr morning prayer. Chapter 22. How to return the greeting of Dhimmi. Narrated Aisha. A group of Jews came to Allah's messenger and said, Assalamu alayka, death be on you. And I understood it and said to them, Alaykum assalamu wa ilana, death and curse be on you. Allah's apostle said, Be calm, O Aisha, for Allah loves that one should be kind and lenient in all matters. I said, O Allah's messenger, haven't you heard what they have said? Allah's messenger said, I have already said to them, Alaykum upon you. Narrated Abdullah bin Umar. Allah's messenger said, when the Jews greet you, they usually say, Assalamu alaykum, death be on you. So you should say in reply to them, Wa alaykum, and on you. Narrated Anas bin Malik. The Prophet said, if the people of the scripture greet you, then you should say in reply, Wa alaykum, and on you. Chapter 23. The one who looks at a letter in order to know its written contents. Narrated Ali. Allah's messenger sent me As-Zubair bin al-Awam and Abu Martad al-Ghanawi, and all of us were horsemen. And he said, proceed till you reach Ravdat Kak. Where there is a woman from the pagans carrying a letter sent by Hatib bin Abi Balta to the pagans of Mecca. So we overtook her while she was proceeding on her camel at the same place as Allah's messenger told us. We said to her, where is the letter which is with you? She said, I have no letter with me. So we made her camel kneel down and search her mount, baggage, etc., but could not find anything. My two companions said, we do not see any letter. I said, I know that Allah's messenger did not tell a lie. By Allah, if you, the lady, do not bring out the letter, I will strip you of your clothes. When she noticed that I was serious, she put her hand into the knot of her waist sheet, for she was tying a sheet around herself, and brought out the letter. So we proceeded to Allah's messenger with the letter. The Prophet said to Habib, what made you, what you have done? O Hatib. Hatib replied, I have done nothing except that I believe in Allah and His Apostle, and I have not changed or altered my religion, but I wanted to do the favor to the people, pagans of Mecca, through which Allah might protect my family and my property, as there is none among your companions but has someone in Mecca, through whom Allah protects his property against harm. The Prophet said, Habib has told you the truth, so do not say to him anything but good. Umar bin al-Khattab said, Verily he has betrayed Allah, his apostle, and the believers. Allow me to chop his neck off. The Prophet said, O Umar, what do you know? Perhaps Allah looked upon the Badr warriors and said, Do whatever you like, for I have ordained that you will be in paradise. On that Umar wept and said, Allah and his apostle know best. Chapter 24. How to write a letter to the people of the scripture. Narrated Abu Sufyan bin Harb that Heracles had sent for him to come along with a group of the Quraysh who were trading in Sham, and they came to him. Then Abu Sufyan mentioned the whole narration and said, Heracles asked for the letter of Allah's messenger. When the letter was read, its contents were as follows: In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, from Muhammad, Allah's slave, and his apostle, to Heracles, the chief of Byzantines, peace be upon him, who follows the right path, guidance, Amma Badu, to proceed. See Hadith number 6, volume 1 for details. Chapter 25. Whose name is to be written first in the letter. Narrated Abu Huraira Ra. Allah's messenger mentioned a person from Bani Israel who took a piece of wood, made a hole in it, and put therein 1,000 dinar and letter from him to his friend. The Prophet said, That man cut a piece of wood and put the money inside it and wrote a letter from such and such a person to such and such a person. Chapter 26. Get up, for you chief. Narrated Abu Sa'id. The people of the tribe of Qurayza agreed upon to accept the verdict of Sa'd. The Prophet sent for him, Sa'd, and he came. The Prophet said to those people, Get up, for you chief, or the best among you. Sa'd sat beside the Prophet. And the Prophet said to him, These people have agreed to accept your verdict. Sa'd said, So I give my judgment that their warriors should be killed and their women and children should be taken as captives. The Prophet said, You have judged according to the King's Allah's judgment. See Hadith number 447, volume 5. Chapter 27. Shaking hands. Narrated Qatada. I asked Anas, was it a custom of the companions of the prophets to shake hands with one another? He said yes. Narrated Abdullah bin Hisham. We were in the company of the Prophet, and he was holding the hand of Umar bin al-Khattab. Chapter 28. The shaking of hands with both the hands. Narrated Ibn Masud. Allah's messenger taught me the Tashahhud as he taught me a surah from the Quran, while my hand was between his hands. Tashahhud was all the best compliments, and the prayers and the good things are for Allah. Peace and Allah's mercy and blessings be on you, O Prophet. Peace be on us and on the pious slaves of Allah. I testify that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and I also testify that Muhammad is Allah's slave and his apostle. We used to recite this in the prayer during the lifetime of the Prophet, but when he had died, we used to say, Peace be on the Prophet. Chapter 29. Al-Mu'anaka. Narrated Abdullah bin Abbas. Ali bin Abi Talib came out of the house of the Prophet during his fatal ailment. The people asked Ali, O Abu Hassan, how is the health of Allah's messenger this morning? Ali said, This morning he is better, with the grace of Allah. Al-Abbas held Ali by the hand and said, "Don't you see him about to die? By Allah, within 3 days you will be the slave of the stick, under the command of another ruler. By Allah, I think that Allah's messenger will die from his present ailment, for I know the signs of death on the faces of the offspring of Abdul Muttalib. So let us go to Allah's messenger to ask him who will take over the caliphate. If the authority is given to us, we will know it, and if it is given to somebody else, we will request him to recommend us to him." Ali said, "By Allah, if we ask Allah's messenger for the rulership and he refuses, then the people will never give it to us. Besides, I will never ask Allah's messenger for it." See Hadith number 728, volume 5. Chapter 30. Whoever replies saying, "Labaik wa sadaik." Narrated Muad. While I was a companion rider with the Prophet, he said, "O Muad," I replied, "Labaik wa sadaik." He repeated this call 3 times and then said, "Do you know what Allah's right on his slaves is?" I replied, "No." He said, "Allah's right on his slaves is that they should worship him alone and should not join partners in worship with him." He said, "O Muad," I replied, "Labaik wa sadaik." He said, "Do you know what the right of Allah's slaves on Allah is? If they do that, worship him alone and join none in his worship, it is that he will not punish them." Another chain through Muad. Narrated Abu Dar. While I was walking with the Prophet at the Hura of Medina, in the evening the mountain of Uhud appeared before us. The Prophet said, "O Abu Dar, I would not like to have gold equal to Uhud mountain for me, unless nothing of it, not even a single dinar, remains of it with me for more than 1 day or 3 days, except that single dinar which I will keep for repaying debts. I will spend all of it, the whole amount, among Allah's slaves, like this and like this and like this." The Prophet pointed out with his hand to illustrate it and then said, "O Abu Dar," I replied, "Labaik wa sadaik." "O Allah's messenger," he said, "those who have much wealth in this world will be the least rewarded in the hereafter, except those who do like this and like this, spend their money in charity." Then he ordered me, "Remain at your place and do not leave it, O Abu Dar, till I come back." He went away till he disappeared from me. Then I heard a voice and feared that something might have happened to Allah's messenger, and I intended to go to find out. But I remembered the statement of Allah's messenger that I should not leave my place, so I kept on waiting. And after a while the Prophet came, and I said to him, "O Allah's messenger, I heard a voice, and I was afraid that something might have happened to you. But then I remembered your statement and stayed there." The Prophet said, "That was Gabriel who came to me and informed me that whoever among my followers died without joining others in worship with Allah would enter paradise." I said, "O Allah's messenger, even if he had committed illegal sexual intercourse and theft?" He said, "Even if he had committed illegal sexual intercourse and theft." Chapter 31. A man should not make another get up from his seat. Narrated Ibn Umar. The Prophet said, A man should not make another man get up from the ladder's seat in a gathering in order to sit there. Chapter 32. When you are told to make room in the assemblies, make room. Narrated Ibn Umar. The Prophet forbade that a man should be made to get up from his seat, so that another might sit on it, but one should make room and spread out. Ibn Umar disliked that a man should get up from his seat and then somebody else sit at his place. Chapter 33. Whoever got up from his gathering, that the people might get up. Narrated Anas bin Malik. When Allah's Messenger married Zainab bint Jahsh, he invited the people who took their meals and then remained sitting and talking. The Prophet pretended to be ready to get up, but the people did not get up. When he noticed that, he got up, and when he had got up, some of those people got up along with him, and there remained 3 who kept on sitting. Then the Prophet came back and found those people still sitting. Later on, those people got up and went away. So I went to the Prophet and informed him that they had left. The Prophet came and entered his house. I wanted to enter along with him, but he dropped a curtain between me and him. Allah then revealed, O you who believe, do not enter the Prophet's houses until leave is given. To his statement, verily that shall be an enormity in Allah's sight. 33:53. Chapter 34. Al-Ittiba, with the hand. Narrated Ibn Umar. I saw Allah's Messenger in the courtyard of the Kaaba in the Ittiba posture, putting his hand round his legs like this. Chapter 35. Whoever sat in a reclining posture. Narrated Abu Bakr. Allah's Messenger said, Shall I inform you of the biggest of the great sins? They said, Yes, O Allah's Apostle. He said, to join partners in worship with Allah and to be undutiful to one's parents. Narrated Bisr. As above, number 219, adding 290, adding, the Prophet was reclining, leaning, and then he sat up, saying, and I warn you against giving a false statement. And he kept on saying that warning so much so that we said, would that he had stopped. Chapter 36. The one who walks quickly for some necessity. Narrated Uqba bin al-Harith. Once the Prophet offered the Asr prayer, and then he walked quickly and entered his house. Chapter 37. The bed. Narrated Aisha. Allah's Messenger used to offer his prayer while standing in the midst of the bed, and I used to lie in front of him between him and the Qibla. I had any necessity for getting up, and I used to dislike to get up and face him while he was in prayer, but I would gradually slip away from the bed. Chapter 38. Anyone for whom a cushion was put. Narrated Abdullah bin Amr. The news of my fasting was mentioned to the Prophet, so he entered upon me, and I put for him a leather cushion stuffed with palm fibers. The Prophet sat on the floor, and the cushion was between me and him. He said to me, Isn't it sufficient for you that you fast 3 days a month? I said, O Allah's Messenger, I can fast more than this. He said, You may fast 5 days a month. I said, O Allah's Messenger, I can fast more than this. He said, You may fast 7 days. I said, O Allah's apostle, he said. 9, I said. O Allah's messenger, he said. 11, I said. O Allah's messenger, he said. No fasting is superior to the fasting of the prophet David, which was 1/2 of a year, and he used to fast on alternate days. See Hadith number 300, volume 3. Narrated Ibrahim. Al-Akama went to Sham and came to the mosque and offered a 2 rakat prayer and invoked Allah. O Allah, bless me with a pious good companion. So he sat beside Abu ad-Darda, who asked, From where are you? He said, From the people of Kufa. Abu Darda said, Wasn't there among you that person who keeps the secrets of the Prophet, which nobody knew except him? Yeah, Hudayfa bin al-Yaman. And isn't there among you the person whom Allah gave refuge from Satan through the request tongue of Allah's messenger? Yeah, Ammar. Isn't there among you the one who used to carry the sivak and the cushion or pillows of the prophets? Yeah, Ibn Masud. How did Ibn Masud used to recite by the night as it conceals the light? Surah 92. Al-Qama said, Wadakari wal unta, and by male and female. Abu ad-Darda added, These people continued to argue with me regarding it till they were about to cause me to have doubts, although I heard it from Allah's messenger. Chapter 39. After Al-Jumu'ah prayer. Narrated Sal bin Sa'd. We used to have a midday nap and take our meals after the Jumu'ah prayer. Chapter 40. Midday nap in the mosque. Narrated Sal bin Sa'd. There was no name dearer to Ali than his nickname Abu Turab, the father of dust. He used to feel happy whenever he was called by this name. Once Allah's messenger came to the house of Fatima, but did not find Ali in the house. So he asked, Where is your cousin? She replied, There was something, a quarrel between me and him. Whereupon he got angry with me and went out without having a midday nap in my house. Allah's messenger asked a person to look for him. That person came and said, O Allah's messenger, he Ali is sleeping in the mosque. So Allah's messenger went there and found him lying. His upper body cover had fallen off to one side of his body, and so he was covered with dust. Allah's messenger started cleaning the dust from him, saying, Get up, O Abu Turab, get up, O Abu Turab. See Hadith number 432, volume 1. Chapter 41. Whoever visited some people and had a midday nap. Narrated Thumama. Anas said, Sulaim used to spread a leather sheet for the Prophet, and he used to take a midday nap on that leather sheet at her home. Anas added, when the Prophet had slept, she would take some of his sweat and hair and collect it, the sweat, in a bottle, and then mix it with suk, a kind of perfume, while he was still sleeping. When the death of Anas bin Malik approached, he advised that some of that suk be mixed with his hanut, perfume for embalming the dead body, and it was mixed with his hanut. Chapter 42. Sitting in any convenient position. Narrated Anas bin Malik. Whenever Allah's messenger went to Cuba, he used to visit Haram bint Milhan, who would offer him meals, and she was the wife of Ubadah bin As-Samit. One day he went to her house and she offered him a meal, and after that he slept and then woke up smiling. She, Haram, said, I asked him, "What makes you laugh, O Allah's Messenger?" He said, "Some people of my followers were displayed before me as warriors fighting for Allah's cause and sailing over this sea, kings on thrones," or said, "like kings on thrones." The narrator, Ishaq, is in doubt about it. I, Haram, said, "O Allah's Apostle, invoke Allah that He may make me one of them." He invoked Allah for her, and then lay his head and slept again, and then woke up smiling. I asked, "What makes you laugh, O Allah's Messenger?" He said, "Some people of my followers were displayed before me as warriors fighting for Allah's cause and sailing over this sea, kings on the thrones," or said, "like kings on the thrones." I, Haram, said, "O Allah's Messenger, invoke Allah that He may make me one of them." He said, "You will be amongst the first ones." It is said that Haram sailed over the sea at the time of Muawiyah, and on coming out of the sea, she fell down from her riding animal and died. Narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. The Prophet forbade two kinds of dresses and two kinds of bargains, ishtimal, al-sama, and al-ittiba, in one garment with no part of it covering one's private parts. The two kinds of bargains were al-mulamasa and al-munabada. Chapter 43. Confidential talk with somebody in front of the people. Narrated Aisha. Mother of the believers, we the wives of the Prophet were all sitting with the Prophet, and none of us had left when Fatima came walking. And by Allah, her gait was very similar to that of Allah's Messenger. When he saw her, he welcomed her, saying, "Welcome, O my daughter." Then he made her sit on his right or his left, confided something to her. Whereupon she wept bitterly. When he noticed her sorrow, he confided something else to her for the second time, and she started laughing. Only I from among the Prophet's wives said to her, "O Fatima, Allah's Messenger selected you from among us for the secret talk, and still you weep?" When Allah's Messenger got up and went away, I asked her, "What did he confide to you?" She said, "I wouldn't disclose the secrets of Allah's Messenger, but when he died I asked her, 'I beseech you earnestly by what right I have on you, to tell me the secret talk which the Prophet had with you.' She said, 'As you ask me now, yes, I will tell you.' She informed me, saying, 'When he talked to me secretly the first time, he said that Gabriel used to review the Quran with him once every year.' He added, 'But this year he reviewed it with me twice, and therefore I think that my time of death has approached. So be afraid of Allah and be patient, for I am the best predecessor for you in the hereafter.' Fatima added, 'So I wept as you, O Aisha, witnessed. And when the Prophet saw me in this sorrowful state, he confided the second secret for me, saying, "O Fatima, will you not be pleased that you will be chief of all the believing women, or chief of the women of this nation, ye my followers?" Chapter 44. Al-Istilqa, lying flat. Narrated the uncle of Abbas bin Tamim. I saw Allah's Messenger lying on his back in the mosque and putting one of his legs over the other. Chapter 45. No two persons should talk secretly excluding a third person. Narrated Abdullah. The Prophet said, when 3 persons are together, then no two of them should hold secret counsel, excluding the 3rd person. Chapter 46, Keeping Secrets. Narrated Anas bin Malik. The Prophet confided to me a secret which I did not disclose to anybody after him. And Sulaym asked me about that secret, but I did not tell her. Chapter 47. Two to have a secret talk in a gathering of more than 3. Narrated Abdullah. The Prophet said, when you are 3 persons sitting together, then no 2 of you should hold secret counsel, excluding the 3rd person until you are with some other people too, for that would grieve him. Narrated Abdullah. One day the Prophet divided and distributed something amongst the people, whereupon an Ansari man said, in this division Allah's countenance has not been sought. I said, by Allah, I will go and inform the Prophet. So I went to him while he was with a group of people, and I secretly informed him of that. Whereupon he became so angry that his face became red, and he then said, may Allah bestow his mercy on Moses, for he was hurt more than that, yet he remained patient. Chapter 48. Holding secret counsel for a long while. Narrated Anas. The Iqamah for the prayer was announced. While a man was talking to Allah's Messenger privately, he continued talking in that way till the Prophet's companions slept, and afterwards the Prophet got up and offered the prayer with them. Chapter 49. Fire should not be kept lit at bedtime. Narrated Salim's father. The Prophet said, do not keep the fire burning in your houses when you go to bed. Narrated Abu Musa. One night a house in Medina was burnt with its occupants. The Prophet spoke about them, saying, this fire is indeed your enemy, so whenever you go to bed, put it out to protect yourselves. Narrated Jabir bin Abdullah. Allah's Messenger said, at bedtime cover the utensils, close the doors, and put out the lights, lest the evil creature, the rat, should pull away the wick and thus burn the people of the house. Chapter 50. To close the doors at night. Narrated Jabir. Allah's Apostle said, when you intend going to bed at night, put out the lights, close the doors, tie the mouths of the water skins, and cover your food and drinks. Hamrunam said, I think the other narrator added, even with piece of wood across the utensil. Chapter 51. Circumcision at an old age and pulling out armpit hair. Narrated Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, 5 things are in accordance with al-fitra, the tradition of prophets: to be circumcised, to shave the pelvic region, to pull out the hair of the armpits, to cut short the mustaches, and to clip the nails. Narrated Abu Huraira. Allah's Messenger said, the Prophet Abraham circumcised himself after he had passed the age of 80 years, and he circumcised himself with an adze. Narrated Said bin Jubair. Ibn Abbas was asked, how old were you when the Prophet died? He replied, At that time I had been circumcised. At that time people did not circumcise the boys till they attained the age of puberty. Sa'id bin Jubair said, Ibn Abbas said, when the Prophet died, I had already been circumcised. Sa'id bin Ibn Jubair said, Ibn Abbas said, when the Prophet died, I had already been circumcised. Chapter 52. Every law is batil. Narrated Abu Huraira, Allah's Messenger said, whoever among you takes an oath wherein he says, by Allah and Al-Uzza, names of two idols worshipped by the pagans, he should say, none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and whoever says to his friend, come, let me gamble with you, he should give something in charity. See Hadith number 645. Chapter 53. The Buildings. Narrated Ibn Umar, during the lifetime of the Prophet, I built a house with my own hands, so that it might protect me from the rain and shade me from the sun, and none of Allah's creatures assisted me in building it. Narrated Amr. Ibn Umar said, by Allah, I have not put a brick over a brick, yet constructed a building or planted any date palm tree since the death of the Prophet. Sufyan, the sub-narrator, said, I told this narration of Ibn Umar to one of his Ibn Umar's relatives, and he said, by Allah, he did build something. Sufyan added, I said, he must have said the above narration before he built.